What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the review scores for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. They are out. Actually, today's a big day for a couple different games. We'll talk about those later in the day, but the scores are out. It has an 86 right now on Metacritic, based off of only 22 reviews. So this is something that will, I imagine, change as the day goes on. Wanted to get this video up as early as I could because the game in early access comes out later today. People will be able to play it, and honestly, to those people, the review scores will mean literally nothing, which, you know what, that's a fair way of going about life. So, you know me, hopefully at this point, what I like to do is I like to talk more about what the journalists are saying versus the score itself. I don't know the difference between a 95 and a 94. I would love to know if you guys know the difference between them. So for me, these scores are always more about what is actually being said versus getting an 86. I mean, an 86 is very, very good. To be honest, I thought I would probably get in the high 80s, so, maybe like 88 or so. But, like I said, 22 scores. I don't even think IGN. I think an IGN from a different part of the world reviewed this game. I think Dutchland reviewed it. So the good old reliable IGN, they're doing a review in progress, I think, right now. And by the way, I'm kidding when I say old reliable. But the kind of the usual suspects. I don't think GameSpot is on here, and just some of the bigger, like, general sites that you know of, they actually are not on here. Like comicbook.com is maybe the biggest. The Gamer is on here. Noisy Pixel. There's a couple, but like not all of them. So like I said, 22 scores. I mean, it might be able to get into like 50, 60 scores by the end of today. So 86. Now, what are people saying? Well, generally it's positive when you have a score like that. Now, I guess maybe starting from the bottom, you do have a 70, you have a couple 75s, and then you have quite a few 80s, and then it gets 85, 90, 95. A lot of them do just like the fives. They don't do like 92, things like that, which is fine. I actually don't mind that. And so what I see kind of across the board is fan service, is the love of the fans. And actually towards the bottom, towards the lower scores, I actually saw a review talk about that, like the main focus of this game is on the fan service, and that's kind of it. And it's like, well, for me, it's like that's all we want. I think we want the Budokai Tenkaichi series to come back. Now, we want it to come back good, in a good condition. But if it's servicing the fans first and foremost, I don't see how that could be a bad thing, right? Considering the game sold really well back in the day, you're looking for this game to probably sell several millions of copies. To not go after the fans, I think, would be a really stupid move, right? So in terms of the massive positive that I think I've seen, no matter which review I read, was kind of the visual quality and I guess that presentation, right? Now, there's things here and there, like I saw somebody talk about the UI, like the actual, almost like the setup screen when you're picking like the modes and whatnot, that it's not all that special. But in terms of like when you're fighting, when you're in the world, like this is as close to Dragon Ball as you're ever going to get, right? And it's, things that we've talked about before where it's like, this is what we thought the old games looked like, right? When you're seeing these explosions and shooting people through rocks and stuff that you do in like Budokai 2 or 3 or whatever. And now you're doing much more than that. But we thought, back then in the early 2000s, we thought that was this, right? So, I mean, obviously, I don't even think we needed any review to tell us that. You look at any of the, any gameplay, any trailer that they've shown, which is basically just gameplay as well, right? That they've shown of this game, and the visual quality just looks unreal. It does look about as close as you're going to get. And I would say the fighting itself was another big positive. Now, that one kind of depends on what you read, because there was actually, I remember there was one 8 out of 10 that really singled out the not being balanced. And it's like, in comparing it to Tekken and Street Fighter and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you're going into this game expecting that, like, it's your review, right? So you give it whatever score you feel fits it. But I don't know where you guys might stand on that. But for me, it's like, well, going in, they've actually said it. They've talked about it. Like, we all know this, and we know this about the old Budokai games, right? They're unbalanced on purpose. Like, that's actually, well, it's not the whole point, but that's a huge point of them. You know what I mean? Is that they're not supposed to be balanced. This is not Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or any of these kind of things. This is Dragon Ball. So, again, I think a lot of people leaned into the fighting and the visual quality of the fighting and all that stuff as good. Obviously, the roster got a lot of praise from critics as well, but there was the one, and it wasn't just one. I mean, I saw a couple of them that talked about the unbalancing of characters, and it's like, I don't know. Like, for me, we know that going in, it's supposed to be part of the game. So if you're judging the game, shouldn't you judge it for what it is? I don't know. Like, me personally, I wouldn't dock any points for it being unbalanced, because number one, the old games were like that, and number two, they're trying to do that again. And then I would say the other main positive was replayability. There was a lot of people that talked about there's just so much to do here, and it does again go into another kind of negative with the story mode. But to balance that out and actually overbalance it, the amount of things to do, whether it comes down to those roster players or the what if scenarios, or any of the modes that they stuffed this game full of, people really praised that as well. I saw that time and time again, that this is, it's a meaty game. It doesn't feel bloated. It's a game that people, I think I don't remember, one of them said they put in like 60 plus hours of the game already. So it's like, yeah, this is a game that you can play a ton of, right? And probably, hopefully, not get bored of. And then in terms of the story mode, I would say, again, like the UI thing and the unbalanced thing, like these were things here and there, okay? But I would say the story mode was the universal negative. So while the universal praise was the visuals and the roster and generally the combat, the universal negative was the story mode is just not up to snuff. Now, some of them talked about like the retreading of like what we've already seen, and I think that one is more fair, because like, yeah, we have seen this 1,000 times, but I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a deal. But then just over and over, a lot of these reviews just really went into that story mode and just said, yeah, uninspiring. There's not much there. The what if things is really what kind of keeps it going and stuff like that. So that was a big focus I think I saw, was just the general lack of it, almost like there was more potential. I think most of them actually came from that angle, where it's like, you obviously, as we all know, you have a lot of potential when you tell a Dragon Ball story or even retell a Dragon Ball story, right? And a lot of people felt that they didn't take the opportunity to kind of go all the way with it, right? So that was, I would say, that was the big negative, which, we'll see. I will see how I feel about it when I actually play it. Obviously, many trophies are attached to the story stuff, so in order to get my platinum that I want to get, I'm going to have to go through it. So I'll let you guys know what I think, but there you go. I mean, overall, very good, and a game seemingly made for us, right? This is a game made for the fans. I think we're ready for it. I think we're excited for it, and I don't know. I feel like not to say, there aren't going to be any negatives, but I feel like a lot of the negatives are going to wash away once I don't know, we've just been waiting for it for so long, you know what I mean? I think the good is going to far outweigh the bad, especially for like the diehards that have been waiting for it, and that's who they made the game for. So, going back to that very first review I talked about, like, that's the most important. They should have made it for us, and it sounds like they did make it for us. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.